What if Henry VIII had his own YouTube channel? Well, Mason, the 13-year-old creator of King Henry's royal court, is making that a reality, with a mix of comedic skits, satire, dramatic reenactments, and dark humour, all inspired by Tudor history. In this interview, Mason, dressed as Henry but speaking as himself, talks about how he got into Tudor history, his creative process, the balance between humour and accuracy, and what it's like running a history YouTube channel at the age of 13. He's passionate, funny, and full of great insights, and you're going to love hearing his story. So, welcome Mason Thomas of the King Henry's Royal Court YouTube channel to my channel, to the Anne Boleyn Files and Tudor Society channel. It's great to have you here, and you look amazing, absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for dressing up. And you are obviously King Henry VIII.
Yes.
So yeah, we just don't want you boiling. You've said you're okay in the outfit. We just don't want you fainting by the end of the interview. Now, so you're here today because I want to sort of quiz you about why you do what you do. So I'm going to dive into the questions. So my first question for you, Mason, is what first sparked your interest in Henry VIII and Tudor history as a whole? Was it a book, a TV show, a teacher, or something else entirely?
So I would have to say, when I'm thinking back, I would say that my first encounter with this would likely have been, honestly, just something on YouTube I would have seen because I've been interested in history for a long time. And so, of course, I would go online, try to find stuff about that. And I believe it was a video by Lindsay Holiday, where I first kind of saw it, I'm pretty sure. And from there it just kind of like became kind of like not an obsession, but like I found that really it was also good because at that point I also was like I really enjoyed learning about the monarchy and like the English kings and queens. So that kind of tied in perfectly. And so that was really the reason I got into like Henry VIII and Tudor history altogether, really.
And why Henry VIII, though, in particular? What was it about him that made you want to, have your entire channel is King Henry's Royal Court? What is it about him, and why did you start this channel, which really is dedicated to him and his personality, isn't it?
Yeah, one of the main reasons I chose Henry in the first place is kind of like when you think like like the infamy, like you think of the Tudors, one of the first people you think of is Henry VIII, and like I want to say there's not a whole lot of people who you say Henry VIII, they won't at least have heard about him, or like he's just like one of these like people in history that like, you just can't escape, pretty much. Like everyone, it's like he's so it feels larger than life, honestly, if it makes sense, because you've got like he's like such an important person. Like you got the Reformation, and you got like people. Honestly, well, of course, most people know him just because of like the six wives. But even then, he's very like well known. He's like very important figure, even still. So that was
Yeah, he's iconic, isn't he?
he is. He's extremely iconic, and no matter what you think of him, everyone at least has heard of him at some point, in some
Yeah.
form. He's just like
I think, as you said, he's larger than life, and I think it's the kind of the Holbein or after Holbein portrayals that we have
yeah.
of him with his hands on his hips, his legs wide astride, and just he's just the power, isn't he? It's
Mhm.
just yeah, he's just that symbol of power. So, and by the way, I just need to tell everyone that you're only 13 years old, which I think is
Yes.
amazing for you to have your own YouTube channel and to be educating people about this monarch at the age of 13. I mean, congratulations and well
Thank
done.
you.
Now, obviously, you are dressed as Henry here, and it's from a particular sort of you concentrate on from 1543. Well, the Henry VIII of around 1543, and you
Yeah.
actually embody him, don't you? You actually talk as him. So, why 1543? What is it about that kind of time in Henry's life?
Well, I believe it was about a year he had been married to Catherine Parr, so he's kind of towards the end of his life, but he's not like on his deathbed at this moment. So I can like reflect on all these major events and it won't be like I can still get that like king remembering the glories and the misfortunes and all of it without being like dying. So basically, it's a good middle point because he's not like stuck dying, like he's not on his deathbed at the moment, but he's also not in the beginning where he's peak physical health where nothing has really happened yet. So it's a good point to use so I can reflect on many major events to happen in his reign. And it's
Oh, cunning. That's yeah, that's good because yeah, he's done yeah, 5 marriages by then. He's done lots of executions. Yeah, as you said, the Reformation, the dissolution of the monasteries, and he's still, he's still off to campaigns in France and that. So not the
mhm.
peak of his kind of life and that, but yeah, an interesting time. Yeah, that's a cunning plan, Mason. I like that. And your costume is amazing. I've got to
Thank
ask,
you.
where did you get that costume from? That is beautiful.
It's actually all of it is from different places because it's not all just one thing. So the hat, which is probably one of my favorite parts, that was from just a website, HalloweenCostumes.ca. It was just the hat, and I really liked it because when you think this is like one of the hats you mainly think of when you think Henry, you think the wide brim, white
Hmm.
feathers. Um, I gotta say, most of this was from Amazon. Because like this, you see, it might help if I just go here for a minute. So you got
Oh yeah, that's beautiful.
the lace part. That's my shirt that I wear underneath.
Yeah.
So you got that because I gotta have the. Then of course, next layer, of course, you have the doublet. So I've got that, and that was also on Amazon. Surprisingly, really nice quality actually. Then of course, this was also from Amazon. It's again, like I said, with this is also really nice quality. I gotta be honest. The sash is actually from a pirate costume. Um,
Okay.
and then everything else really, like the pants, these are also from Amazon. So it's mostly all just stuff I bought online and put together.
Yeah.
Because,
Well,
but
you
I,
certainly got the Hemi look there. That's yeah, it's beautiful. Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely the look. Oh, it's brilliant. And yeah, I'm so glad that you're in Canada wearing that and not Spain where it's in the 30s centigrade here and is rather hot. I
I
think
can
you'd be
barely handle,
fainting.
I can barely handle 20 degrees into t-shirt and shorts.
Now, I think your videos, I've had a look at some of your videos and they're really well researched. And I'd like to know how you go about researching your videos. Do you use books? Do you watch documentaries? Do you look on the web? What do you do to research for your videos?
I tend to try and do like a mix of all of that. So like yes, there will be stuff I might have seen in books, but a lot of it it'll be documentaries. Because when I watch documentaries, of course, I like to look it up and do research myself, maybe elaborate more, confirm it. So that's what I tend to do. It'll usually be stuff I'll just go online. It's really fun to do actually. I'll just look stuff up and I'll research and double check, fact check it all, and then usually that's when I'll try and put something together so I can use it for a video. And so usually it is just a lot of usually either watching some documentaries or just going online and doing some research, double checking, writing, fact checking, and that's usually the best way I find that tends to work.
Yeah.
Um, because even when I have an idea and I have it written out, I will go back, double check, and make sure it's not wrong. Because especially where I do it as Henry, I have to make sure that also looks how he would state it. So if I'm talking about Anne Boleyn, I won't talk about her as some like misunderstood. If I'm as Henry, I have to be like, oh, she was horrible. She had an affair. She was the worst. Like she was horrible. And if I don't do that, it's not going to be Henry because I mean it's not going to capture his like emotions about her. Or if I talk about Catherine of Aragon, or Jane Seymour. If I talk about Jane Seymour, if I'm not saying like talking about like Edward or like how his emotions, it's not going to work because you don't get that Henry feel.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, because you're not doing it as someone objective, you're being subjective, you're being Henry, aren't you? So yeah, it's a different way of looking at things. So yeah. And do you have any favorite historians or YouTubers that you look up to or you learn from?
Yes, very much. There's a lot of them actually. Of course, besides the Anne Boleyn files and you, which has also been one of the major things I like to watch. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, you got a Tea Time with Lindsay Holiday. History Calling is one I really like. Um, what else? I like to go. Most of what I do is will just like go on YouTube and find those, and then of course fact check it myself. But for fun. But like History Calling, Her Remarkable History, which I think rebranded lately to something I don't remember what.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, there's some really, really good channels out there, aren't there? So,
yeah.
and
Once you
everyone has
find,
different opinions as well. So it's interesting to get the different opinions. So,
mhm.
so how do you balance humor with historical accuracy in your videos? Because obviously you are embodying Henry VIII, who I think probably did have a pretty good sense of humor. But anyway, how do you balance it? Because you want to you obviously make your videos entertaining, not just
Mhm.
factual. So how do you get the balance right?
It can be rather hard actually, because I got to make sure it's funny to people, like actual people, but I also need to make sure it has that accuracy. So a lot of what I'll do is, of course, I'll get all the facts, and then of course, I have to find a way to make it comedic. So usually, I'll find like a way to put a joke. I'll set up a joke somehow, or it'll even be physical props. Like I mean, I've got Anne Boleyn's head right here with me. Um, so I tend to. So it's honestly so a good way to get a mix, I find, is once you've got all the facts and you've got some ideas, you got to try to find a way. So if I did one on Anne of Cleves, for instance, maybe I could say like a caption like Anne of Cleves. When I first see Anne of Cleves, and I'm in the entering room, and I'm like, "Hello," and then I have like a horse neighing, and I walk out because, of course, Henry described her as a horse. So something like that, something simple is what I try to go for, but something that's also funny. Like the
Yeah.
one I did, relationship tips with Henry. You got some, especially irony is something you can play on too. Like Henry VIII giving marriage tips. Probably the last person you would take tips about marriage from. I mean, so you got to try and find something simple, funny that you can actually use without like destroying the historical, like all of like the facts and the truth and like all that.
Yeah. 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 I think that's a good mix. Thank you. And obviously you're young, and a lot of the history channels are run by people, like 3 or 4 times your age. So what are the biggest challenges that you've faced running a history channel as a teenager, or haven't you had any challenges?
I find one thing I've had troubles with at some points is, especially people don't realize that I'm doing Henry VIII. Like my friend Presley, who also does the channel, she made a thing, Father's Day message, and I responded, and I was like, kind of like correcting myself instead of saying like horrible things about her in the message. I'd have to correct myself, and a few people said, "You're like 9." Like a few people were confused because they saw like just they don't. Many people, if they don't understand the Henry thing, they just tend to see like, okay, this person's kind of. So yeah, I find age does tend to have a bit of trouble there because you have to do it, but if someone doesn't understand it, you can face a lot of like problems with like people not just being confused, like you're so young, why are you? And there's those people who won't take you seriously, like you're so young, how you should know, you don't know any of this, you can't be. So that's a fine something else you can have trouble with. Like some people, not a lot, but there are some people
Hmm.
where it's like, oh, you're so young, you can't, you're too young to know this, you shouldn't be like. It's not very common, but you do tend to find people who just can't comprehend that like I should be able to know
Hmm.
some of this stuff. Um,
So
so
do you
yeah,
get nasty comments on
uh,
YouTube?
No, I think I've only ever
Oh,
had
that's good.
three. I've only ever had
Yeah.
three. Um, thankfully. Only
Yeah.
three. So that's pretty good. Pretty much everyone, most of the comments I get, I really like because I find there's a lot of funny ones too. I'll get like they'll be doing like the with the proper like Tudor grammar and all that, and I find that really fun.
Mm.
So I find it really fun when a lot of, especially if they'll play along with that. That's always really fun. So I mostly
Yeah.
get a lot of. I mostly almost always just get good comments whenever I do get comments, which I
Yeah.
find is rather nice to not be not have
No,
that
that's
negativity.
good because the online world can be a strange place
Yeah.
sometimes, and yeah, yeah, you get the keyboard warriors every now and then, but on the whole, I think it's a very positive environment, especially the history world. So I'm glad that you've mostly had good comments. And what do your friends and family think about your channel? Are they
Uh,
encouraging?
Absolutely. My family loves it. And so do my friends. My friends absolutely love it. Like I'll send them a lot of the stuff. They all love it, especially my friend AJ. She used to do it too. She also loves. All my friends love. Everyone who I know seems to really like the stuff I do, and I find that also motivates me to do it more because like it's nice to get positive like comments anywhere really. Uh, so yeah, my family, they really tend to like it. They find a lot of the funny stuff really good. My friends do too. They like doing it too. They like watching it too. So yeah, I am very much supported in this endeavor.
Oh, brilliant. That's really lovely because you need that when you're starting something new. You need
Yeah.
the support. Now, you've done loads of research into Henry VIII and Tudor history. Have you found what's the most surprising or perhaps the weirdest fact that you found out about Henry and his world? Has there been anything that you've thought, oh, wow, that's really strange or surprising?
I probably have to say, sorry, I might need a second because there's a few that I've countered because it's very weird. Well, I'd say one I probably like is that they had to have a special hoist to get Henry on a horse at later in his life, or how he needed like I don't I believe it was stated an early form of the wheelchair to get him around because of how bad his leg had gotten over the years. And I thought
Yeah.
that was kind of crazy. Like he needed to be hoisted onto a horse just so that poor horse honestly though, but like they had that was probably one that shocked me most about Henry VIII that personally just about Henry VIII. That one probably shocked me the most because I was like, oh, okay, that's wow.
Yeah, especially when you think when he started his reign, he was this fit, sporty 17-year-old who was
Yeah.
jousting, and it's such a big difference, isn't it? The young Henry and the later Henry.
Mhm.
Now, if you could go back in time and visit one Tudor event or meet one Tudor figure, what or who would it be and why? I mean, would you go back and meet Henry?
Honestly, probably not. I like my head where it is. I would have to say probably Catherine of Aragon. Um, yeah, I would definitely say Catherine of Aragon. I mean, not just she's Henry's first wife, it's his longest marriage. She's also the daughter of Isabella and Ferdinand, which is like so. Plus, yeah, I would definitely say Catherine of Aragon. She would be the one I want to go in back in time to visit
And at which
because
point during her life would it be, like when she was with Arthur or later? The
I would
younger Catherine or the older Catherine do you think you'd like
I
to
would
meet?
say probably early into her marriage to Henry, I would say, would be the point I would want to, because but at that point, they're both kind of happy, they're still rather
Yeah.
young. So I would like to go back to that point and meet her if I could, because you got to the point where like their life is pretty good. I mean, they're the king and queen of England, but that's probably where I would go because she's got a nice happy marriage. She's doing good. Henry's young. They're all young. It's all really just good. It's good for everyone at that point, really. So that's
Yeah.
probably where I would want to go back to if I were to meet her.
Yeah.
Definitely.
When they were hopeful about their future
Yeah,
together. Yeah.
that good
And where
point.
do you, yes, a good point. Where do you get your ideas for your topics? So when you're planning your videos, where do you get your ideas from for your topics or your skits that you do?
Sometimes I'll ask my friends for some. Of course, they don't always have many, but usually I'll think of something funny or I'll see like a trend and I'll like write it down somewhere, like on my phone or somewhere, and I'll just think, how can I do that? I'll find ways to adapt it. Um, like I find usually I just if I either get the idea or I'll see things on YouTube, I'll be like, how can I make that Henry? That's my main way to look at it. How can I make it Henry?
Okay. And do you, when you're doing a video, do you script it out first or do you improvise?
Some videos I will have scripts. If it's a major event, I will have a script out for it, just like with facts. But I do tend to do like a lot of improvisation, like even when I have a script. Like my recent video for the execution of Thomas Cromwell, uh, pretty much the entirety of that end was just improvised. I tend to improvise a lot of it. Even shorts, I tend to improvise a lot because I find it's more realistic when I'm not reading something off screen and it's just coming from me personally. So usually it's a mix. Sometimes I'll improvise and have some bits scripted, or I'll have a whole scripted video and I'll even improvise throughout or do different things and all that, which I find is usually the best way because people tend to seem to like when I have the professional tone, but then it breaks the Henry emotion almost.
Yeah. And you mentioned to me in your emails to me that that you have this rule about, you know, would Henry post this? And
Mm.
so how do you think that, well, what would Henry VIII make of like YouTube and social media today, and how would he use them, do you think?
Well, I think definitely he would definitely be using it to promote himself, like to try and convince people he was still like the fit, like perfect king that they all thought that everyone like how he once was, still like fit, sporty, and like the perfect king that he thought he was the whole time. Convinced, like kind of like how with like the Waiter Holbein portraits, he had him exaggerate how he was to try and make himself still seem like he was like a great young king, even though by this point he was like deteriorating and paranoid. Which I find is kind of funny because many people consider his father tyrannical towards the end of his life with the paranoia and taxations. And when Henry takes over, and that's a bit off topic, but like, everyone's like, oh, this is amazing. And at the end of his reign, he's the same way as his father, except more violent. So I think he would definitely try and use it as like propaganda. And like, I think he would personally post like funny things as well, but definitely mostly propaganda.
Yeah. Yeah, propaganda. I wonder if he'd use dating apps as well. Perhaps not.
Again, that would not end very well.
No, it certainly wouldn't. Now, thinking back to Henry VIII himself, you know, towards the end of his life, which execution do you think hits him the hardest? You know, perhaps on his deathbed, he's sort of thinking back to the things he's done. Which of all those executions do you think he'd be thinking about and being haunted by? Which one hit him, do you think?
I would say probably either Thomas Cromwell or honestly Catherine Howard. Because although yes, he was very mad, Catherine Howard and Cromwell, of course, the times of their deaths. Of course, I believe it is stated that later in his life he did say that Cromwell was the most loyal servant he ever had. So I do think it kind of hit him hard later on. I think he was kind of troubled by the death of Cromwell and realizing it was pretty much at his own hands. And I personally think he may have had some guilt for putting Catherine Howard to death so young. Although I do think he did kind of hate her for the affair. I do believe that he may have held a bit of guilt for sending her so young to the block.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you over Cromwell. And he did speak out about his regret. Well, he blamed other people, didn't he? Really, he
Oh
blamed
yeah,
his Privy Council for that. He couldn't take responsibility himself. He wasn't
no,
very good at that.
no, no, no. If he was
And
alive today, he would need counseling.
definitely. And do you portray any other historical figures, or is it just Henry you focus on?
I don't really do them on YouTube, but I do have another one I do on YouTube. Not as much as Henry, but I do Charles II.
Okay.
I find he's a very good one. I also do George III. I don't think I do it on YouTube yet, but I am considering making another channel where I do George III because I mean, he's also got a very rich life. I mean, he lives fairly long. He sees a lot of important events himself. I mean, he's alive during the French Revolution. I mean, he's the king during the American Revolutionary War. So he sees a lot of important historical events too. Then you also got the bouts of insanity and madness that he suffered, which are also very good because that's also adding some like depth and like his whole life was just like full of constant like madness, you might say. Because he's got all kinds of things going on and like all these major events seem to happen. And he was what, the third longest reigning English monarch, I believe? Because after him, I think it was Victoria, then Elizabeth II. So he reigned really fairly long. I mean, he lived to be fairly old. So like he's got a really rich life, which is fun to portray. Um, So that's good. Same with Charles II, because of course, you got the that information. What's the word?
Restoration. Yes,
Restoration. Thank you.
restoration. Yeah.
I don't think there's really anyone else that I do at the moment. Um, I don't believe. Yeah, they're the main. They're the three I portray.
Yeah, they're all
Uh,
really rich characters, lots of things to get inspiration about with those. So what's your favorite video that you've done? I was just thinking of YouTube, I think. What's your favorite video that you've made so far and why?
if I had to say full length video, I would probably have to say probably the Reformation one I did recently, because recently I did release one. It did do fairly well actually. I think 300 views, which is pretty good for me. So that was one of my favorite, not just because I thought it was fun to make, especially because like such a rich part of his reign. So once I've got that script written and I can improvise bits, I thought that was my favorite one to do. Mostly because um, you've got this like tone switches constantly. Like, one minute I'm talking about Anne Boleyn, then I'm talking about Wolsey and like so the tone switches and all of the all the important parts of it, having to put it together. I thought that's really why that was my favorite because it was a bit of work, but it was really fun to make edit. So I'd say that one.
Yeah, I was
Definitely.
going to say it's a lot of work because it's such a big topic, isn't it? And it's so very complicated as well. The English Reformation and Henry's role in it, very, very complicated. Now, I'm thankfully you said that you haven't really had negative comments on YouTube, but what's the most memorable comment that you've received on YouTube or social media? Is there one that really has stuck with you?
Um, definitely yes. There has been a few. One of them I would say was actually the first comment we got ever. It was just saying that they thought our channel was really funny and they that we definitely deserved some subscribers. And I thought that one's really stuck with me because that was our first comment, and I just really liked the motivation. But there's also been a few. I don't remember. There's another one. I don't remember a word for word, but it was in like the Tudor. It was in Tudor English. It was just saying that the video's funny, but it was like a long stretched out paragraph of Tudor English. And I thought that was extremely funny, and that's one of my favorites too. They're probably like my favorite ones that I've gotten.
Yeah, it's good when people are encouraging and yeah, you feel encouraged and motivated to carry on with what you're doing. So, oh, that's good. And what do you hope that people, your viewers on YouTube, sort of take away from your channel? You know, are you trying to educate people? Are you trying to entertain them, or a bit of both? And also, do you hope that your portrayal of Henry will change how people think of him?
Yeah, I so sorry, what was the first part?
So educate or entertain, or
Right,
both?
sorry. Um, yeah, definitely both because I want people to be entertained, enjoy the videos, maybe laugh, but still take those facts without, even if they don't really watch it for the education. I still want them to be entertained and still take the facts from that video to learn more about it. So that way they can like to learn, but that's one of my favorite ways to do it when you do it through comedy and all that. Kind of like Horrible Histories, which is one of my favorite shows. The way they do it, you got the comedy, but you also get the facts through it. So that's the way I like to do it, where I get the facts through with the comedy. So especially in a time when people's attention span seem to be getting slower, you get the comedy. People go to watch, and they take away those facts, even if they don't realize that they're learning as much as they are.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Horrible Histories, I think was very good at that. I remember watching it with my kids, and yeah, was it Charles II, the Party King, with the Restoration, and I just remember that episode. Yeah, that was a good one. And so, do you hope that your Henry VIII, your portrayal
Right.
of him, will change how people think about him?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, we've got all these portrayals and it's just like negative, like, oh, he was just horrible because, he was like this. But they don't go into depth about him himself. They go about what he's done, not his emotions. I hope my portrayal can get people to see him not just as like a tyrannical monster, but also the complex, like, thinking he himself, not just his actions. I like I want people to not just see him for six wives or beheading people. I want them to understand his complexity, his emotional complexity, the depth of his reign and him himself. So that's one thing I'd like to do because everyone's just like, oh, he was so tyrannical. But besides that, he was a person. He had interests. He was a human being. So it's nice to get that and be like, yeah, this is how he was. He like how he liked music and all that in the arts. People don't seem to focus on that, and just showing that the complexity of him himself is really good. I mean, he's pretty much legend, honestly. Like everyone, like he's such an iconic figure that everyone just sees him one way when we don't like recognize the complexity of him himself.
Yeah, yeah, too many people, I think of him just as that, the man who married six wives,
Mhm.
executed two of them, who was tyrannical and that. And yeah, they forget that he also was a composer
Yeah.
and a real, I don't know, bright spark, a really bright
Mhm.
man,
He was.
so
He really was.
yeah, and as you say, a really complex character. So yeah, well done. I think your Henry VIII will educate people. I think your channel's great.
Thank you.
So looking forward with your channel, you know, do you have any sort of big dreams or plans for your channel for the future? Where do you see it going in the next, I don't know, 12 months or so?
Well, in 12 months, I do see it going fairly far, and hopefully the video's evolving, getting more like if it makes sense, complex, but not like confusing, but like expanding, how like Henry and like how he like all the details about him, like just expanding like the portrayal from just like the comedy to like Henry being himself to like get that across that he's not like I said a minute ago, since he's so complex, I'd like to be able to show that through video. So I'm hoping over the next 12 months the channel will evolve somewhat and get all those points across. And I also do see it growing a fair bit in 12 months, hopefully, because I've done pretty good in 5. So hopefully, yeah, I
Oh,
definitely
I'm
see.
I'm sure it will, Mason. I mean, you're putting so much work into it, so and hard work pays off, I think. So I'm sure it will grow. More and more people will find you definitely. And if you had a team behind you and unlimited resources, unlimited money, what would you do? What kind of Tudor project would you put together? Would you do like a documentary? Would you try and do a film? What kind of Tudor themed project would you do if you had all of the resources that you needed?
Definitely some form of documentary and try and portray the complexities through something. I like because documentaries, of course, they're very important, especially if you can find some good, entertaining ones. They're the best ones. So I would like to, if I had unlimited money, unlimited like all the stuff I would need, I would definitely try and do a documentary that's accurate of a portrayal as everyone in it, so I can get.
And if you did, say you did a movie of Henry VIII, but you didn't have you as Henry VIII, you had, an actor, a well-known actor. Who would you choose to be Henry VIII if you had this big production where you had to cast an actor and you're just the sort of the writer director behind it?
Hmm, I would have to say if there's someone I thought that I think could do a good portrayal of Henry VIII, I would have to say probably. Sorry, I'm trying to think of actual actors. Um, there's definitely a lot of good choices, though. I would probably
Hmm.
say if I were to get someone to play Henry, I would probably have to say.
Sorry to put you on the spot. It's a tough question. I'm
This
trying to
is
think. I thought
because
Jude Law was pretty good in Firebrand. I don't know whether you saw that.
I don't believe I saw that. It's just hard to think of an actor who can actually do that as well as
Yeah,
really well, especially in a time when a lot of the portrayals are more theatrical. Um,
yeah.
I would probably.
Hmm.
1 second.
Would you choose someone for their looks or their attitude?
I would definitely say probably a mix because you need someone who also looks. You need someone who can capture Henry, but someone who also looks something like Henry.
Hmm.
So you definitely have to find someone who could not just capture
Yeah,
him, but quite literally embody him.
yeah. It's a
Um,
tough one. I'm not sure there is a perfect one that I can think of.
no, I don't know. It's kind of tough because you'd have to like evaluate like
Hmm.
different ones to find who would be
Yeah.
good at doing that. So that's
And
one.
it depends which bit of his life you're focusing on as
Yeah,
well, because the young Henry, obviously 17, the older Henry, you're going into his 40s now, are you? So it's a tricky one. You'd probably have to use two actors
yeah.
if you were doing his whole life. Okay, so we haven't come up with with the the iconic actor really. But do you watch many sort of Tudor themed films or shows or documentaries? And if so, which is your favorite?
I definitely do watch a lot of documentaries, especially. Um, what's it called? I remember. I believe it's part of a history hit. It's YouTube. It's the no. Here, sorry, 1 second. I just gotta check. It's a very specific one. I can picture it,
Okay.
but I can't
Mm-hmm.
remember the name.
Yeah, history hits very good.
Yeah, it's but the ones that I tend to watch. So sorry. I can picture it. I just can't remember the name.
That's okay.
Um, Real Royalty on YouTube. Definitely.
Okay.
They've got a lot
Yeah.
of good ones. They do a lot of Henry VIII and like his wives and all
Yeah.
that. So they've got a lot of ones that I really like up there.
Yeah.
Um, I can't really pinpoint a certain one, but the one I'm watching right now, their most recent one, is so far probably one of my favorites. It's really
Yeah.
nice. They post a lot of nice ones up there. Uh,
Yeah.
I can't exactly pinpoint any. I do remember most of them actually, but I can't pinpoint titles at this time.
Okay, now, so moving on then. If you were made king for a day or president for the day, if you were a ruler in our modern times, perhaps, what would your royal decree be? What would you do that could perhaps change your country or change the world, or just
Uh,
make things better for you if you were Henry VIII?
I would have to say, especially where I live, housing is a bit of a problem. So definitely try and do something about that. Because I find especially where I live, there tends to be a bit of a problem about that. So that'd be one thing I would definitely try to tackle if I somehow overnight gained like a bunch of power.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yes, that's a good one. And as well as your costume and that, what's the most Tudor thing that you own or that you wish you owned?
I can go. I'm gonna go get it actually.
Okay, go and get
1 second.
it. Now I'm getting very excited. Okay,
Okay, so
what
I would.
have you got?
Don't know if you can see it, but it's Henry VIII's replica of Henry VIII's seal from
Oh,
the
wow.
I believe it was from the one of the French treaties. Yes, the Treaty of Perpetual Peace
Yeah,
with Henry and Francis the First. It's a replica of the seal for
yeah.
that.
Oh,
And it's got the young Henry and like the row with like rose and like the inscriptions, and that
yeah,
itself is probably the most Tudor thing I own besides all this.
yeah. Oh, so yeah, Henry from the in the prime of his life there. Yeah, that's great to own. Yeah. Okay, final question. So I want you to finish this sentence. Being a 13-year-old portraying Henry VIII on YouTube is dot dot
Hard,
dot hard.
hard. Um, Very fun though. Portraying Henry VIII as a 13-year-old on YouTube is very fun. Rather hard, but worth it in the end.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So why is it hard? Just
Um,
because he's so far removed from you,
uh,
or what makes it hard?
Mostly the complexity and having to redo all the research to get the accurate details for said complexity. So I can't just go in the video and be like, "Oh, I don't like Adam Cleves." I have to get his reasonings, his emotions, and all that. So I have to go through a lot just to get a simple thing to try and get the point across of like him really.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean we are so far removed from him today. We live in a very different world. You
Yeah,
know, he lived in a world where religion ruled everything really
yeah.
and very different times and yeah, so it is hard to wrap your head around some of the decisions he made sometimes and really get
Mhm.
inside his head. But I think you do an amazing job, Mason. And
Thank
I
you.
thank you so much for answering all my questions. And I had so many to ask you. Thank you so much for answering these questions. And I really hope that some of my viewers will definitely head over to your channel, which is called King Henry's Royal Court, and go and watch some of your videos and subscribe as well because
Hopefully.
it would be good to get you some more viewers and because your channel's growing and it's great to support it. So thank you so very much, Mason, for joining me. It's been
Thank you for
great to have
having
you
me.
here.